Hello friends. So we have currently a Jenkins server and a Docker host. So Jenkins have the Jenkins applications and the Java and Maven, all the things are installed on the EC2 machine. And we have a different EC2 machine where we have a Docker host. So as you see in the previous sessions that we download a Tomcat image and we run a container, Docker container by using the Tomcat image. In these particular sessions, we are going to see how to integrate Docker host. Means the Docker host needs integrations to with the Jenkins server, so that when the Jenkins pull the code from the GitHub, this is the applications from where the Jenkins is pulling, fetching the applications and generating the artifacts. So now, if we integrate the Docker host with the Jenkins will push all the binaries to the other EC2 machines which have the Docker host. Okay, this is the one part. When we have the Docker, when we have the extract of the applications, means the artifacts file in the Docker host, how we can build a container from it, because for this we have to write a Docker file. As you know that from the Docker file we will create a Docker image. Through Docker image we will create a Docker container. So this is the process, because to build a container from the Docker image we require a Docker file. So this is the second things. But in this particular sessions we are going to integrate our Docker host, which is on the separate EC2 machine, and the Jenkins, which is running on a separate EC2 machines. We are going to integrate it. When we go integrate it and build the job manually currently, because when we have a proper setup CI/CD pipeline, then we will manage the thing in an automated way, as we did for the Tomcat. If you didn't refer my previous video on the CI/CD pipeline with the Tomcat, you can refer it. In that particular sessions we did all the things manually, and after when we have a proper setup, we put it in an automated way. So we write a cron job, so it will listen for any update on the Git for every minute. So when we have update, we push into the Git repository. The Jenkins will keep on monitoring, and every minute, so it can run automated jobs and push the code to the Tomcat server, and there we have the applications running. Whatever we changed, did a change in the application. So this is my applications where we have all the codes related with the Java, and if you want to use it, you can fork this particular repos. Like you can see that lots of user fork it for their they are doing the practice for it. So you can fork it as well, because this is the public repository, and so it will not you don't require any permissions to fork it, because it's a public repository. So now I'm going to move into Docker host, because Docker host also, and the Jenkins server, because we have to download lots of plugins, the plugins that related with the SSH, because we have to publish our code through the SSH. So, and we will integrate our Jenkins with the Docker host. So Jenkins requires all the IP related things and the users. So we need to create a user on the Docker host, so that the Jenkins will identify, and we will provide the credential also to the Jenkins server for the Docker host, so that the things will be integrated. And in this way, when we build our job manually, it will push the code to the Docker host. This is the main motto of this particular sessions, and now I'm going to access the Jenkins server. So just copy the URL, and I'm going to, because it's running on port 8080, so I'm going to run it. Okay, sorry. So as I previously accessed this and passed the user credentials, so it's keep my information saved, so it's not asked for the login. Now I'm going to install the plugins. So under the manage plugins, you have the update if you installed any plugin already. So this is the section for that, and the available, whatever the available plugins chat supports for the Jenkins is all listed here, and install what you installed it previously. So I'm basically concerned with the available because we have to install it first time. So I'm writing here the publish over. So you have the publish over FTP also and SSH also, but I'm going to use the SSH. So just click the checkbox and install without restart. So it will install all the supported plugins for this, and that's all. So we need to add the Docker. Now the next step is we need to add the Docker credentials over here. For that purpose, we are going to create a user. The name of the user will be Docker admin. So we are going to create a user on the Docker host, and we will pass that user informations with all the credentials to the Jenkins. So for this now, as we already installed the plugins, now I'm going to move to the Docker host. So now I'm going to connect with this particular machine's Docker host. I copy the public IP, and here we have the mobile extreme. Create one session for that SSH, and there you pass the IP of the Docker host. Use the private key, the pen key, and specify the user. It's issue to machine, so issue to user, and click on OK. The same as we did previously also, and let's zoom it so you have the proper visibility. Now I'm going to first move to sudo su. Okay, so that's fine. Now I'm going to add a user. So user add Docker admin. Okay, and the password. Now you have to change the password, so I'm adding the password here. Okay, let's retype the password. Okay, so password successfully get changed. So this particular user, the Docker admin that I just created, should be the part of the user group. So let me get that particular group list. So you can see there is lots of group list where we have the Docker also, and the user that I created, the Docker admin also there. So we need to add the Docker admin to group Docker. So this is the group Docker. Now we are going to add this particular user to Docker group. So how to do that? Add the command for the user mode. AG, D will be capital, Docker. This is the group name, and this is the user that I just created. So in this way, the Docker admin user is now the part of Docker group. Okay, perfect. So you can check it as well, writing the Docker admin. So you can find that in this way you can identify that this particular Docker admin is the part of the group Docker. So all the things is perfectly done. So the user credential we need to provide to the Jenkins server. So it's whatever that we have set here for the Docker admin, these particular informations we need to provide to the Jenkins server. So I need to browse the interface for that and go to the dashboard, and here you have to manage the Jenkins and the configuration system, and here you have to scroll down to the will be a sections for the SSH, because we already installed the plugins here. Okay, you don't have to change anything else. So publish okay, here this is this one, the SSH server. You need to add all the informations here, so click on the add button. Okay, and it will ask you to provide the IP. That will be the private IP. So you can get the information from the AWS also, like for these particular machines you have the private IP address. But for simplicity and for the knowledge purpose, I am going to use it here, fetching the IP ADDR, and here you have the informations, this one, and the same informations we have on the AWS console as well. Just copy it. So 199, and here you also have the 199, 44119. For you can copy it from here also. You can, but you should have the understanding how to get the IP, the private. This one is the private IP, not the public one. So we have to provide a private IP to the Jenkins, so that the integrations between the Jenkins with the Docker host can be established. Okay, cool. So I'm going to the Jenkins server, and here we have to pass the name of the server. So you can pass it as a Docker host. Okay, this is fine. And for the host name, you have to paste it, whatever you copied for the private IP of the Docker host, and the username, the Docker admin. This is the user that we created and added as a part of the Docker under the for the Docker hosts. So remote directory, we don't require anything to pass here, and you have to click on the advanced button so that you can pass the credential also. Okay, so I type in advanced. All thing I passed, required. Okay, it will be removed when I passed all the things. Okay, and here you have to pass the credential. Okay, fine. So if you test the connections this time, just try to, because this is the mandatory things to test the configurations. So you have to test your configuration so that the connections have been established or not. So you can see that it's failing. This is the good sign. Why it's getting failed? Because for the failing, it's failing because we need to enable the password based authentication on the Docker host server. Because on EC2 instance it is not enabled by default. So we have to jump on the Docker host to enable this, and rest all the things looks fine. We don't have to apply any changes, and we are going to the jumping to the Docker host to change this. So now I am going to change the password authentication things at the Docker host. So moving to the etc. Here we have a SSH. Okay, cd SSH. ls, and here we have a file called sshd config. So let me edit that file, sshd config. Okay, and search for the password. Go to the edit mode, and here you can see that the password authentications is by default set as no. You have to modify it to yes. Okay, save it and exit from it. Okay, so currently I'm the host. Okay, so I did all the things. Let me and after doing the changes, okay, one more thing is that is very important. So you already changed it. Now you need to reload the service because you did some changes. So this is the very mandatory things, and you have to do it. Otherwise, the connection will be not established. And this is the thing. This is the point where we did mistake several times. So just reload it. The command service. Okay. So you can see that it's reloaded perfectly fine. So now I am going to the Jenkins and I am going to test it again. So you can see that it's now successful. So here you have the two things. One thing is to you have to set the value as yes for the password, and other thing is that you have to reload the service. Two important things that you have to do. Otherwise, you will keep on doing the R&D on the Googles, because if you didn't reload the service, it will not going to establish the linking. So by this you can confirm that the integrations with Jenkins to the Docker host is now perfectly fine. Now click on the apply and save it. So okay. So what we did, we set up a Docker and the Jenkins integration. So this part is now complete. Now it's a time to uh, 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 we need to run a Jenkins job manually so that the artifact will move to the Docker host. For this, we have to create a new item, so that, and we have to do the configurations where we put the Git repository path and all these things. We are going to do it right now. So I'm just clicking on the new item. Just we need to create one job for this activity, and here you have to pass a meaningful name like deploy to Docker. This one is perfectly fine. So we are deploying to Docker host. Okay, select the Maven project. Okay, deploying where file to Docker host. It's quite descriptive. And for the Git, just browse this path. Okay, so copy it, and here you have to paste it. Okay, and you don't require any credentials as it is a public, and instead of master you can use the main. Okay, so you did all things. You added the Git details, selected the Maven project, and now you need to move to the here you have, because it's a Maven project, so form detail is already available, and you have to pass here clean install package. Okay, and now after that you have to move the post build actions, because you already installed because when the build is happened, what you want to perform after building. So post build actions, and you already installed the plugins, the required plugins. So this one, send build. If you don't install the plugins, this particular actions is not available in the list. So click that, build artifact over SSH. So this thing is done. Now we have to provide the Docker host. It's already in there because currently we have the integration with the one server. That's why it's coming. If you have the integrations of the Jenkins with the several servers, then there will be a list of all the servers. So this information will come automatically. You don't have to write anything for that. Okay. So now we have to write the information in the transfer, the source file. So we are going to write it here, whatever the source file where we want to move our artifact. So inside the web app, target, and any war file means whatever the name of the project with a war file. So any war file. Okay. Remove prefix, we are going to leave it as for now, but I will guide you what is the use of it when we run a build a job manually after second time. So at that time we will see the impact of what is the remove prefix all about. So remove directory, it's give the information so of where you want to copy. It will copy the artifacts into the user home directory by default. So in our case, the user is Docker admin. It copies the artifact into the Docker admin home directory. So I'm going to put here only the dot here for the remote directory, and the remote prefix will be empty for now. Execute command, if you want to execute any command on remote host, as I'm not going to execute any remote command, so I am leaving it as a blank. So then no changes for this. Now I think I did all the required changes. I'm going to apply it and save it. Okay. This is fine. So before building the job, I'm going to check the first what is the Docker admin home directory. So here we have to see where we are currently, so that we can monitor the artifacts generated by the Jenkins job manually. So we have to look into the things here. So I'm going to jump into this particular path, the home one. home/docker admin pwd. So we are currently in the home admin folder. So su docker admin, who am I? Okay, perfectly fine. So let's move to we just move to the Docker admin. So now it's time to build the job, because here we don't have any file, and the file will going to come at this place when we run the Jenkins, which is running on the different EC2 machine, and this is the Docker host, which is running on different machines. So let's run the Jenkins job. I'm going to build it. You can see all the build related information here, console. It gives you all the informations. It has some required test cases that provided by the developer. It's a part of the application, so you can see that the build is successful, and this there is some informations here that it's keep the artifacts file into the local Jenkins repository as well as it did previously, but it's now establishing the connections here. You can see that it's connecting to the remote through SSH, and transferred one file there. So if we see here, Do we have any file? So you can see that now the file is available. So we are running the job on the different server where we have the Jenkins, and the Docker host which is running on different EC2 machine have the integrations. Now when we run a job manually on the different EC2 machine, it pushing all the artifacts to the Docker host. Okay, so now it's we need to browse it. So in the Docker host we have the file, and we are seeing that file there. Okay, file available, we have the artifacts. So let's move into it, web app, and ls, where we have the target. Okay, cd target, ls. Here you have the var file. So this is the application artifacts file which required, but we have to go inside the web app, then the target. So this is all things we are talking that we can remove it. So we are going to modify our Jenkins job, and we will run it again. So that we can remove this particular path like web app / target. So it's not required. So I'm going to remove this particular file. So let's do it. So we have the web app, and we don't require it, so I'm going to remove it. So we have nothing here. Okay, so we want the var file at this particular locations. We don't require in this particular format like web app under that target, and then we have the var file. So we are going to modify our Jenkins job for this. Just configure it here, and just scroll down the remove prefix sections which leave blank previously. Now we are going to remove that prefix. For this we are going to write web app target. Okay, that's it. So when the artifact is generated, the var file will be pasted into the root, not under the web app target, because we are just removing the prefix. Just apply the changes and save it and build again. So this time also the project is now successful. Now I am going to see the var file. Do we have the var file? Yes. Now we have the var file available here, but we want this particular var file on the Docker container. We have to create a Docker container. How we can create a Docker container? Because Docker container will be created by the Docker image, and the Docker image will be created by the Docker file. So now we have the artifacts. Okay, so now we in the next video, in the next sessions, we are going to create a Docker file, and we will put all the information that to copy the binaries and put it in the different locations, and we will create a Docker file. On that particular Docker file, we will create a Docker image. After that, we will create a Docker container so that we can run the applications. Because we have already Tomcat is running, and you can see that particular things. You just copy the public IP. This is the Docker host, and you copy it, and you can run it here. So Tomcat is already running as a container, and we have to create a Docker file using the Tomcat and the binaries, so that our Docker file will move the artifacts to the particular create an image on that, and when we create an image, it will create an environment for the tomcat where we have the binaries also, where we have the tomcat also, and we have the proper setup. And when we browse the web application, web app changes, it will reflect in the browser. So in the next session, we are going to see how we can create a Docker file with the Docker image. Through Docker image, we will create a Docker container. So now we have the artifact on the Docker host. So one thing is completed, and for this in the next session we will see the Docker file and Docker image and Docker container related things. After that, we will do the automations so that all the things which we are doing the manually is now in the automated way. So we don't have to do any types of creations. We just change the application and push it to the Git, and Jenkins will listen to the Git repository, and it will move the artifacts, create the Docker and Docker file images, and create a container as well. So we are going to see all these things in the automated way. After that, we will play with the Ansible playbook, where we are using the Kubernetes cluster to just send the image to the Docker hub, and where we passing all the informations to the deployment service YAML file, and deployment needs to be done on the Kubernetes cluster. So these all things I planned to demonstrate, and this will be this will come on the other lectures. So today I'm completing this lecture, and if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and click on the like button, share it with your friends as well. Keep learning, be safe. Thank you.